What is up, everybody? This is Kaz Danazon from Crash Productions with yet again another Atari Dev Space, and today we are joined by a very special guest. We are joined by Ian McCranor. How are you doing today, man?
Doing good, thank you. How about yourself?
So far, so good. Why don't you tell the people who don't know who you are a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I guess the main thing, the reason I'm on, is that I am the guy who played the role of Angus McGregor in that fantastic game, Kasumi Ninja, back in the day. 30 years ago, would you believe?
30 years is quite a ways back. I was born in
Yeah.
'91, so when the Jaguar came out, I think I was about 3 years old.
Oh, my word.
First,
This was 1994.
I remember as a kid, I really wanted to get the console. Like, I didn't know really like anything about the Jaguar, about like marketing campaigns or anything at all like that. I had an NES and a Super Nintendo, and I remember about 95, 96 or so, I was old enough to actually remember some of the old commercials. I really wanted it because of the strong marketing campaign. I don't know. I think the commercial that I remember the most was the Doom commercial. My introduction to Doom was the Jaguar commercial.
Okay.
So, here's a question. So first things first, where are you from? Is it okay if I call you Ian?
Yeah, please do. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us where it all began. Like how did you get into acting? What made you want to do motion capture? And then let's kind of segue into like the games that you've worked on after that point.
Total fluke. I had no experience in being involved in computer games whatsoever. My background was competitive karate, bit of kickboxing. I was working at the time as a nightclub bouncer. I'm originally from Coventry in the UK. Now, Coventry is, for those who don't know, look at the map, it's about 90 miles north of London. And I was competing karate internationally, and a friend phoned me and he said he knew somebody who was looking for somebody to be involved in a computer game, and was I interested? I thought he was pulling my chain. I thought he was just having a joke with me. And because I believe it was either the next day or the day after that, it was very, very short notice. So I found out later that other people had turned it down. And I said, yeah, why not? Let's give it a go. So I drove to Manchester, which is about 60 miles north of Coventry, pulled up to this building, walked in, introduced myself. And again, remember, I'm still thinking these are friends of mine who have they've set me up for something. Really, I had no idea what it was all about. I just said, "Yeah, give it a go." So when I walked in there was a woman standing there naked, and I'm taken back. I'm thinking, my friends have set me up. This is something completely nothing to do with video games whatsoever. But what it was, there was no changing rooms there. There were no locker rooms. It was just like one room, and this lady had finished her part in Kasumi Ninja, and she was getting changed, and she didn't seem bothered. So I introduced myself, and I was told that I was going to play the part of Angus McGregor. So they put me in a makeup chair, gave me a kilt, put a false beard on me, put me in front of a green screen, and said, "Okay, what have you got for us?" And pretty much unscripted. They'd done things with the other actors, and I guess they were hoping I had something for them. So we threw some kicks and some punches, and we had a bit of laugh about it. And I suggested, so all the things that you see in Kasumi Ninja that people kind of laugh about, like the lifting the kilt and firing the flame, I made that up on the spot, and kind of thought they would say, no, we don't want that, but they went with it. The death move, fatality move, where they kick the head off and then headbutt it. Again, I came up with that, and they said, "Yeah, fine, that's great." So when I look at it today, I look at all the other characters, then my character, and I think you'd agree that Angus McGregor kind of stands out because of his quirkiness.
I definitely think so. Obviously, first off, real quick, Kasumi Ninja gets. You know what? I'm gonna do something real quick. Just
Okay.
because we're having this conversation, I'm gonna go ahead and do the fandom a little bit of justice. I have the classic Kasumi Ninja headband that I'm going to wear for the duration of this interview.
Okay.
But yeah, there we go. So, unfortunately, Kasumi Ninja does have a bad reputation, but the people who are fans of the Atari Jaguar particularly favor Angus McGregor, uh, like you said, because he stands out. He's comical, he's fiery. You know, there's a lot of amazing thing, not necessarily amazing, but like a lot of individual unique factors for that character in specifically that stands out. Both him and the goth character, which his name was, because I don't want to be
Goth. Was
Alaric,
it
King of the
Alaric?
Goths.
Alaric.
So, what would you say what would you say is probably your most favorite experience while working on Kasumi Ninja? Was this like a one-day shoot? Did you have to come back for multiple takes? Was this a separate studio that wasn't associated with Atari outside of making the game? What all do you remember?
Kasumi Ninja was the developers was a company called Handmade Software
Mm-hmm.
in Manchester, and I I didn't I didn't know anything, and I didn't speak to anybody after the shoot either. It was a 1 day shoot. It wasn't even 1 day. It was maybe 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours. And once I'd finished doing my part, and something again that people don't know is when I'd finished shooting the character Angus McGregor, we sat down and we had a cup of tea and we were having a chat. And they said, "Would you mind putting this latex costume on?" There's a character at the end of the game
Ah,
called Gaku.
he,
Is it the
yep,
Emperor Gaku?
yep, Lord Yaku. Oh,
Lord Gaku.
the green
If you
kind
get
of.
to the end of the game, which most people haven't, get to the end of the game, you fight Lord Gaku. So I was also Lord Gaku. I was in that latex suit, but you couldn't move. There wasn't really anything you could do. It was as though an afterthought. Just throw some kicks and punches, do what you can, and that was it. So yeah, I'm Lord Gaku as well. But I once I drove away from that, I never heard from him again. Never spoke to him again. There was no interaction about the game. In actual fact, I had to buy the console, the Jaguar console, and I had to buy the game to even see myself in the game. So I remember looking through. There were quite a few magazines out at the time. I remember regularly looking at the magazines to see when this thing was out. Bear in mind, it was 1994, so you couldn't get online. There's no. It wasn't the same as getting on a computer and searching Google. Google didn't exist then, so it was all done by looking in a magazine.
So, so again, I was a little too young at the time to really know how the video game market was affecting like the world around. I didn't really get into video game collecting until my late teenage years in the early 2000s. So I grew up with Super Nintendo, NES. Like I said, I wanted a Jaguar, and I actually inherited from an adopted brother of mine a Nintendo 64. So my entire youth was Nintendo. And it
Okay,
wasn't until in my teenage years that I got into emulation and I started playing Sega Genesis games and I realized, holy crap, Sega is so superior. So as I'm falling down this like rabbit hole of video games as I'm growing older, I end up realizing I've never actually played Atari games. And so finally, fast forward nearly, I want to say 5 years ago at this point, I finally got my very first Atari Jaguar. I drove all the way to South Carolina. I paid $1,000 for it. It came with the CD controller, the memory
wow.
track, came with a completed copy of Primal Rage, Tempest 2000, and a couple of other games. And I've fallen in love with it. I have to be honest when I say I had heard all of the negative hype about Kasumi Ninja over the years, but never had the chance to play it because I could never figure out the emulator. So when I finally got my first copy of Kasumi Ninja, and I got the box right here, I still have the box. I was honestly kind of thrown away with how terrible the controls were, but the characters
Right.
have this. I don't know. It's one of those things. Is like you want it to be bad because everyone says it's bad, but I had fun despite there being clunky controls because the Jaguar controller is kind of uncomfortable. Do you? I don't know if you still have a Jaguar, but do you remember how the controller feels?
I have no idea. Like I said, I bought the console to play that game. What did we have in the house at the time? How old was my son at the time? He's probably about maybe 10 at the time, and he was playing mainly sports games. I think we may have had a Mortal Kombat or a Street Fighter, but that wasn't on the Jaguar. That was on something else. Um, I played it briefly on the Jaguar, but no more than that really. So I don't really remember the console that well at all.
When you were playing the game, do you remember like what your representation of the character and the gameplay was for you? Like, were you like, "Oh, this is bad," or like, "Oh my God, I'm in a video game"? Like, how did you feel?
No, it was cool. It was fun to watch. When I watched all the other characters, and I've written a book actually recently, and in there I'm talking about my experience becoming Angus McGregor. And one of the conversations I had with the guy in the room was while I was watching somebody else do their part, and that was very, very briefly, because the only people that I saw the other characters was the lady who was getting changed at the beginning, and she didn't even speak; she was gone. And then I saw a lady doing some moves, and didn't even talk to her. It was kind of in and out. And my question was, after watching some of what she was doing, what what's her background? What does she do? Is she a martial art person? Is she involved in that kind of stuff? And he turned to me and said, no, and again, I don't know whether he was correct or not. He said, to the best of my understanding, that I'm the only person, talent that had hired, real talent. Everybody else were just people that friends to do some moves. I don't know how true that is because I've looked at some of them, and some of them do look a bit. They have got some technical skill, but when I looked at all of them, I didn't see a great amount of skill going on. It wasn't like they looked like very technically proficient. I don't know if you agree. If you looked at all of them, as you go through each one, um, they just looked like they were just moving and kicking and punching the best they could. I mean, did you get the same opinion, the same thing, or
I definitely feel like so when you first start the game, you can only choose. You have to unlock the other characters, and you can only choose the same ninja. I think his name is Haku, and the other one's name is something else.
okay.
They give you like the base model. Let's see here. Habiki and Senzo. My bad. Hibiki and Senzo. And so like they have like a punch move where it's just this, and it looks so pitiful. Like the kicks are nice. I
Right,
think the kicks are nice, but the punching is just it always feels off. I always end up
right,
having to unlock your character, and I always end up trying to unlock King of the Goths first because they're my two favorites. I
right?
like the sumo design for King of the Goths, and then I also like your Fireball, which is very difficult to achieve if you've never played the game, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I've played a lot
What?
of fighters. If I had to pick to any of the fighters, there's only five fighters on the Jaguar technically, because there's Bruce Lee, the Story of Dragon. There's Ultra Vortec, Double Dragon 5. There's Kasumi Ninja. Is it four? Yeah, so there's only four. So if I had to pick my top two out of any of those, it would have to be Kasumi Ninja and Ultra Vortec because it's such a niche game, honestly.
Right.
Also,
Yeah.
you know there was a. Go ahead.
Now, one of the stipulations when we were talking about what I was going to do as a character was that they wanted. I was a nightclub bouncer for 15 years. Again, a karate background. They wanted to. They didn't want me to look too karate-fied, too technically proficient. They wanted me to be more of a brawler. So when I was kicking and punching, I'd be very cognizant of the fact that I couldn't look stylized. I had to just look like I was in a street fight. So I was trying to throw kicks and make him look a little bit kind of shabby, if that
Right.
makes sense, because it wasn't a martial art karate game, or the character wasn't supposed to be that. Um, so yeah, it was interesting when I looked at what they did because it wasn't motion capture. It wasn't. It was in front of a green screen. So what you see is pretty much what I did. and they've obviously quirked it around a little bit quirkiness. They've done stuff to it to try and make it look a little bit shabby. I don't know how they did that, but so it looks a little bit different to the way I've done it.
I have to ask. I have two questions. Okay, so in the game, right? So they have like character stats. It tells you how tall a character is, what they weigh, a little bit of information, but the manual has like more info, of course. So there's two questions I want to ask. One is that epic beard. I mean, it's obviously a fake beard because
Yeah,
if you go back and you look at your old photo, and it's just see if I can get it to show up, like it is comical at best because it doesn't match your like the shape of your face, right?
no, it was stuck on.
And it's you just look. I'm not even making fun of you, I promise you. But you just
No,
look. You're just like, yeah, I'm here. You know, like that's exactly how it feels. But I gotta
the,
ask: Are you
no,
actually 6'1"?
I am no, just over 6 foot actually, just over six.
Okay. All right. So there is a sense of accuracy there. Were you about
Yeah,
210 pounds around that time?
that time I was about maybe one no about 200 at the most.
Because if you look at his stats in the game, and I'll add like a screenshot of it here and stuff, like in the middle of the interview, it says that he's 6'1" and 210. So now that kind of makes me wonder if like, did they get your measurements when you went in for the fitting?
No, 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 they've made that up. I am just over
Ooh.
6 foot, and at the time I think I was close to. Let me think what it was. I was competing internationally, so I was fighting at. Oh no, less than that. Have you got a calculator? I competed at under 75 kilo. Sorry, under 75 kilos. So what would that be? Under 75. I bet I was about maybe even 185 pounds, something like that. So I wasn't close to 230 by no stretch of the imagination. No.
So are you a black belt in karate now, or were you a black?
Oh yeah, I competed internationally for a few years. Yeah,
So what are you doing in your everyday life now? I mean, are you still working with video games?
I wasn't, but I kind of am now. Um, I got my US citizenship 10 years ago, so I'm back and forth from the States now. I call myself semi-retired. But most of my last 20 years has been group fitness instructor, personal trainer, uh, boxing coach, kickbox, all that kind of stuff. So I kind of semi-retired, I guess. But um, the last 12 months has been crazy. I The reason we're talking is because I saw something on a TV program a while ago, and it was talking about the retro game,
Mhm.
how retro gaming is just gaining speed, getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And I've written a book. The book's been out for a while, and somebody contacted me via social media because there is a chapter in the book talking about Angus McGregor. And coincidentally, I'd seen this TV program about retro gaming. This guy contacts me and says, have I ever thought about, or do I go to conventions? And I was confused. I was in a game 30 years ago and I haven't really thought about it that much since then. Excuse me, did a little bit of research, and I started liking and becoming members of pages on Facebook, retro gaming pages. And I put my profile out there, tell people who I was. And I was inundated with people saying, we'd love to meet you. We'd love to see you at conventions. Where are you going to be?
Mm.
Next thing I know, I get an invite to the States to
Nice.
go into a convention. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. I've got an agent who's looking at getting me more bookings. If the people are interested in meeting that character, me rather, who played that character, then that's what's going. That's what's going on now. I'm also I train every day. I'm still in decent shape, and I want to try and get into more motion capture, do some more. I can still do a lot of stuff I used to do. Um, Given that I was in three games actually, but given that the three games that are in were all pretty lousy, I'd like to be in a game that was got a bit more credit.
Fair enough. And that also makes me want to ask. Well, I want to ask this question first, and then I'll ask you about your other games because I noticed you have them on your back wall here.
Right.
So since getting involved in the retro scene, right, or more specifically, showing up in the Atari community, knowing like the history that you have with this gaming, knowing how there's people that like the game, how has reception been? Like, how many people have come to you and said, "Oh my God, I like your character," or who have complimented you? And more importantly, how many people have come to you and said, "Oh my God, this game is such terrible crap"? You know, like what's the consensus here?
It's kind of a combination, but it appears that most people are of the opinion that it's so bad it's good. The
Yes,
game,
I love it
uh,
personally.
yeah, the game is so bad. In actual fact, if it wasn't so bad, then I probably wouldn't be talking to you because it kind of made Angus stand out.
Yeah,
The game was that bad, and one character was the star. It kind of made that character stand out. So I would say it's a mixture. Nobody's contacted me and been rude and said, what a crap game. They've mentioned that the game didn't get good reviews. And I said, yeah, I know. But every one of them said, it's just great to actually see and hear from the person who was that character. Because a lot of people, understandably, they'll see a character in a computer game and they don't really think of them as a real person. You
right.
know, they see this character, but then when they put a real name and a face to that character, everybody's really intrigued. I don't think there's a day goes by where somebody doesn't message me and say, "Oh, I saw you on whatever it was. Uh, do you go to conventions?" And I just say, "Yes." I'm just waiting for more invites.
So, I definitely want to see about trying to get you out here to Fable Comic Con. That's not really my position. It depends on what the general theme is.
Right,
And as I've mentioned before, I'm a photographer for the venue. But I'm gonna talk to my overseer. I'm gonna see if I can get you out. But um, I, I was gonna ask you about your other video games. So you have Fantastic Four and Batman and Robin for PlayStation. Tell me about
right,
what did you do for those games?
right. The both games. Well, I say both games. I don't know. I haven't really looked at the stats. I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know the stats of how popular they were or how well received they were. But Batman and Robin came about again completely coincidentally, nothing to do with Kasumi Ninja or my part in motion capture stroke green screen. I was writing for a karate magazine at the time, and the editor was contacted and asked, "Have we got anybody who they could have for Batman and Robin?" And as it happened, the game Batman and Robin came out, or it was linked to the Batman and Robin movie that came out with Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy.
Hmm.
Because there are a few Batman and Robin. There are a few Batman games out there, aren't there?
Yeah,
Quite a few.
so many. Not to mention the fan created games too. But
Okay, so
continue. Sorry.
the Batman and Robin game, it was everybody in that game was from my karate club or people that I got involved. So yeah, they're all from people who trained with me. But again, the game itself wasn't very well received, and it's not the person's fault who is the actor in it. It's all to do with the controls, the gameplay. Um, can you save it? You have to go back to the beginning. Do you start again? There's so many things that make a game good. You know, you know better than I would. So we did Batman and Robin, and then it was either around the same time or before that. There was the original made for Acclaim by a company called Probe Entertainment out of Croydon
Yes,
in
I'm
London.
very familiar with
But
that.
but Batman and Robin, that was the same company, Probe Entertainment, and so the Fantastic Four, when you play it, they're little tiny characters on a screen, and I was the Thing, and all I did was thump the floor and throw punches, and anybody could have done that. It wasn't a big deal whatsoever. Um,
But to be
I
fair,
did. I did. Sorry.
my apologies. I get ahead of myself. I didn't mean to cut you off. But to be fair, though, the thing is like the biggest character. Like, like
Right.
there's a pun, like a meme that goes around on the internet where it's like, so here's the thing, and it's just a picture of the thing, and that's all the meme is.
Yeah.
But it like his character is a really big deal. I mean, when Jack Kirby passed away, like I remember, and I had a 1994 comic. Was it 1994? I had a comic that had like a rest in peace art art page dedicated to him, and it's just the Thing crying at his tombstone. I loved the character as a kid, personally. So to even say that I'm talking to somebody that did motion capture for the Thing is a big thing for me. You say it's not a big thing, but for some people it will
How
be.
how many how many Fantastic Four games are there though? Because I think again there are maybe a few versions. So when I saw it, um, I haven't seen. I see some screenshots of other video games with a thing that looks really good. Um, so I don't know which version you're talking about, but yeah, I was the thing in one of the versions anyway. But if you look at the picture behind me of the box for the game, that was
Yeah,
the game that I was in.
I think that one came out in '96. According to Wikipedia, there are no '97. There are two main games that came out for it, and this one by Probe Entertainment and Acclaim Entertainment came out in 1997 and was based on the Marvel Comics characters of the same name and was not tied to any form of media outside of the comics. So not tied to the
Okay,
cartoon, not tied to the movie, which I think came out later. Also, we just got hit with the 10-minute timer from Zoom, so I think we'll be running out of time soon.
okay,
But I just want to say, like, for me, like, it's a big deal. If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, we want you to play the Thing," I'd be like on cloud nine, dude. Like, I got to be honest.
right,
But that's just me because I'm biased. Like, some of my favorite
yeah,
superheroes are the Thing, are Kick Ass, are Blade. Also, huge comic book kid myself. It was issue number 8 of First Class Unlimited. So it was, I believe, it was called First Contact. It was a one issue comic that came out in '96, and it was based on the character Christopher Bradley. Are you familiar with the character at all in X-Men?
uh, um, the picture comes from. I'm
He
going to
was
say no, but
he was a very small character. He only made it into 3 comics over the course of 10 years, and he was also
okay,
featured in the X-Men movie Wolverine Origins. He was the guy that controlled the light bulbs in the RV. So Christopher
okay,
Bradley, he was a 17-year-old kid. He was a mutant that could control electricity like static shock. And the
okay,
story for it was, and I know I'm so getting off the rails, but he's my favorite character out of all the comics that I've read. He goes off the rails because he realizes he's infected with a mutant killing virus. He's not going to get a chance to live a normal life. And so the X-Men are trying to mentor him and everything, and he's rebelling. But at the end of it all, he kind of comes to peace with who he is. He gets the girl that he's always wanted. He gets to live his final years like a normal person. I don't. It's a single comic. It's like 26 pages, and I love it so much. I
okay,
wish they would make it into like a short film or something for X-Men.
right, yeah.
Anyways, okay.
So
Because we only have 7 minutes. Uh, Anybody who's watching, real quick, is there anything you want to tell your fans? Anything you want people to take away from the interview?
let me think. Batman and Robin. I didn't tell you. I played the role of Robin.
Nice.
Everything Robin did, that was me in Batman and Robin, and I did all the kicking for Batman. And there's a boxing coach who trained with me. He went in. They wanted Batman to be a bit more sluggish and mainly hands, so he did all the boxing stuff, and I jumped in and did kicking stuff. So I did the kicking for Batman, and I did all the moves for Robin. Um, what else? Going back to the book I wrote, um, the chapter called Angus McGregor. Um, it's not about the computer game or the computer game industry. When I was asked to do this role of Angus McGregor, I was a nightclub bouncer. Worked every night of the week. I ran a few more nightclubs as well. Their security. I was competing internationally karate, and I alluded to earlier. The guy said to me when we were sitting watching this girl do her moves, he said, "To the best of my knowledge, you are the only skilled talent we hired. Somebody who's got a background in this kind of stuff." And it was what I've written in the book was that it was the drive home that kept ringing in my head. I would never in a million years have believed that the skills that I got in karate and being basically a street fighter, a nightclub bouncer, I would never believe those skills could have been utilized in any other way. I just thought I was competing karate, I was teaching full-time karate at the time, and I was a nightclub bouncer. That was it. But on the drive home, because of Angus McGregor, that character changed my life. It made me realize that I had skills that could be utilized in many different ways. I can be a personal trainer, I could do more motion capture stuff. I can be a fitness coach because group fitness, because karate and the way we train is about fitness. But it was Angus McGregor actually, when people see him on the screen, they see this guy with a beard, lifts his kilt, fire a flame. But to me, he made me, or that day made me realize I had so many different things that I could do because of that one day shoot. It sounds strange, but that's how it worked.
I think that's beautiful, personally. I tell you what, how much time do you have today?
I have as much time as you need.
Well, how about we do this? Let's do a part two. Let's
Okay.
because we have 4 minutes left on the timer, and for those of you guys that's watching, we're gonna get him back. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create another link, and I want to talk more about your book, your process into writing it, and where you currently stand within the world, and like how you want to inspire people and stuff. Is that all right?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this recording. We're gonna start a part two. Forward. Okay. So we had to take a short break, obviously, because we're running out of time on the Zoom timer. So let's go ahead and jump back into your book. You were telling us about how Kasumi Ninja changed your life and how you wanted to kind of go on this journey and you wanted to teach people and so on and so forth. So I'll give you the floor and let you take full reins of everything here.
Okay. I kind of forget where we. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. So we were talking about the fact that last year I had my first book self-published. And there's a chapter in there called Angus McGregor. And as I said previously, it was an important chapter for me because it wasn't about the character Angus McGregor and a chapter that a gamer would read and think it was about the game Kasumi Ninja. The chapter is actually about recognizing somebody's potential, that your perception is your reality. And when I got offered the role of Angus McGregor, I just took it. I just said, what's the worst case? What could happen? I didn't really know what I was doing. I turned up there, thought I was being set up, but I've got to the stage where I don't believe in failure. There's no such thing as failure. You're only learning. And I thought to myself, when I get there to do this, the worst case is I've been set up, I look a fool, and I've learnt by it. So I saw the opportunity. Richard Branson, you're familiar with the name Richard Branson?
I know the name.
Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Holidays, I guess. He had a saying that was, if you are given an opportunity, always say yes, and then figure out how to do it later. And I kind of used that mantra. So I went there to do something I had no idea what to do, but I'd figure it out when I got there.
Right.
So I took the opportunity. And because of that, I'm talking to you. Because of that, I'm now being invited to conventions. Because of that game 30 years ago, I've got a whole new, exciting, potential adventure ahead of me 30 years on. So when I wrote the book is about creating, coincidentally, it's how strange it is. The book is about creating separate personalities to deal with different situations. For example, what do you do as a full-time job? What is your job?
So actually, I'm kind of in between jobs at the time. I did lawn care for 7 years, but I'm
Okay.
getting into video game development and acting, and so I'm doing some odd jobs while I finish out my last year of college.
Okay. So would you say that when you do acting, you have to become somebody else? Is it nerve-wracking for you? Is it something you find difficult?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have to put a different persona on to be able to do that job?
Oh, it's definitely difficult. So I've just to give some context, just for the sake of the conversation, I've had to do some roles that just aren't me. Like I've had to play the stereotype of a douchebag. I've had to play a jock, and I'm not a jock. I'm not a douchebag. I'm a very nice, nerdy kind of guy. I've always been that way. So it's really weird for me to get into a role that puts me as kind of like this stereotyped a-hole. But I
Right,
can do comedy. I can do like, quick whips and stuff, and I can like, give it back if it's given to me kind of thing. But that's just my sense of humor. And I haven't found a delicate balance to combine that into playing to these other roles. So when I go to an acting set and I don't really know like what the character is really supposed to be about or whatever, like if I'm like, it's difficult because you have to take the moment to put yourself in that mindset. You have to know that, hey, this isn't real, and you also have to remind yourself that sometimes some people can't get out of character, and that is a real disorder that happens. There are some people that get lost. I forget what it's called, but they get so into the character for so long that it becomes a part of their personality for a short period of
right.
time. Jim
Now,
Carrey,
yeah, that
good example of that.
right. That's a good example because the book is about being able to absolutely 100% become a character for a period of time.
Mhm.
So I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, if you knew me for a long period of time, I'm not a violent person. I got very good at being violent though, and that's what I'm talking about becoming somebody for a period of time.
Right.
Um, I I I was great at sparring in the club. I love the combat training. Um, and somebody came to me. I was only 19 years of age. Somebody who was working as a nightclub bouncer came to me. Came to the club and trained. Great taekwondo guy, uh, uh, a boxer, amateur boxer, a lot of experience. He was about 10 years older than me, and we sparred. And at the end of the sparring session, he said, "You need to come work on the nightclub door with me. You do really well there." And I felt like a fake because here I was, like a black belt. I was competing. I was winning trophies, but I felt like a complete fake because as a black belt, you're supposed to be able to have a fight. You're supposed to be a good fighter,
Right.
but they're not the same. That a street fight lasts literally seconds.
Yeah.
And when I worked with him the first night, it was just horrendous. The violence was just horrendous. And it took me a long time to understand it didn't matter how good technically proficient I was, it didn't matter how good a fighter I became. If I couldn't be violent, because a street confrontation is not about technical proficiency, it's not about being a good fighter. A
Mhm.
street fight's over in seconds.
Exactly.
So I had to be very, very good at being very violent for really short periods of time. And when I realized that as a bouncer or in a self-defense situation, there is no, for me, nothing technical to be done. It's just finish it as fast as you can,
And
as
get out of
brutal as you can, and get out of there. Because the best fighter on the planet can be destroyed in 1 second, 2 seconds by nobody. And so the book is really about perception. It's about change your perception, change your reality. It's about being completely 100% totally honest with yourself. Not lie to yourself. Don't be a fake. And so it was the book that I wrote that's called, coincidentally, again, goes around in a circle. The book is called, I'll show you. The book is called Fighting with Myself. Now, when I wrote it, it didn't occur to me that as a person involved in motion capture and video games, you stand in front of nobody and you fight with yourself. And the name came on its own. So here I am touting a book that I'm going to be selling, signing, showing at conventions called Fighting with Myself. And here I am, a motion capture actor who's here because I was fighting with myself on a green screen. How strange is that?
You know, for, First off, a little bit of background on myself. I grew up in a ghetto. I spent the majority of my late teen years and my early 20s fighting people, just going to and from the work. It was a bad situation. bad environment, and I learned very quickly that I needed to fight for myself. Um, and so I definitely I love the way that you put it because you're right. It is in a matter of seconds. It doesn't matter how big you are or how much of a fighter you are. It will be over just like that, you know. But it's also what you take away from it, you know. I never saw myself as somebody willing to fight someone or defend myself, and I've been in real street fights. I've had to develop street smarts because of it. I mean, I'm 32 now. You know, this was when I was about between the ages of 17 and 21. Um, and I didn't have a lot growing up or as far as like a father figure or whatever, so I had to learn those things for myself to be a man and know what it is to be a man. So I appreciate the way that you word that, because sometimes I've gone over in my youth and I've thought like I didn't like this, I can't believe I had to put myself through this. I can't believe I had to endure this kind of thing. And I've never been a fighter. I've never been a confrontational person. I've always been about peace and love, man. Like that's always been me. So I don't
Well, there's an sorry to cut you off.
know.
There's an analogy that I use that explains it really, really, very, very well. And once you hear it, it can be life changing. So you say you're 32,
Yeah, I was born in 91.
right? So for 31 years, you've been taking single steps. You started walking when you're probably 1 year of age.
Mhm.
So for 31 years, you've taken billions, trillions of single steps, correct?
Correct.
Single steps. So you could be called a one-step expert. If I ask you to stand up now and take a step, you're a one-step expert. You can do it, correct? It's not difficult. You've done it for years.
Right.
So you would say, yeah, I'm a one-step expert. If I asked you to stand on top of a high diving board or a cliff where the cliff divers, it's a long way down, it's scary, and take that one step that you've done trillions of, that you're an expert at, suddenly the action of one step is not that easy.
Right.
That physical act of one step is not easy. Now it's a mental game. Now your brain's playing tricks with you. It's one step. You could shout down there and say, has any of you been killed doing this? No. Any been injured? No. Can I have boats down there? Can I have lifeguards? Can I have first aid? Can I have everybody to protect me? Yes. You would still find it very difficult unless you're a thrill seeker and like that kind of thing.
Mhm.
You're still taking one step would still be very difficult. So it's not physical, it's mental. And the reason I use that analogy is in a self-defense situation, if I taught you to throw a knockout punch on a pad, a split second to go from here to here is a split second, and you hit somebody correctly, they're unconscious. You could do billions of them over 31 years on a pad and be a one-punch expert. Doesn't matter how good at punch you get, you could be phenomenal at that punch. Pulling the trigger and throwing the punch when this guy's in front of you who is an animal who's going to hurt you, it's a real situation, is the same as taking one step off a cliff, off a diving board. It's not physical, it's mental. So when it comes to self-protection, self-defense, when I worked as a bouncer or in a self-defense situation, the person standing in front of me, they've already told me with their mannerisms, their dialogue, their posturing, their position, they've told me everything I need to know. I don't need them to throw the first punch. I know what's going to happen because I'm aware of the way they're behaving. So I either leave the situation, which is 99.9% of the time. If I can't, I'm taking that step off the diving board.
Right.
I'm being first and knocking them unconscious. The downside to that is that there's no such thing, especially in British law anyway, there's no such thing as getting away with manslaughter. If somebody died, it's manslaughter. It's still, you may not have done it on purpose. You've hit them to defend yourself. You knew it was going to kick off. You knew they were going to attack you. Everything they did told you that they're going to strike. So right. You hit first. You hit first and it's over. You've killed the guy. Now you're going to jail. How about you haven't killed the guy, but the person you hit is connected. Now you've got a world of trouble. Now you've got problems because he's coming looking for you now. When I talk to people about self-defense, self-protection, the vast majority of times you can walk away. You can get away from it. You can walk away. And there's a bit in the book that talks about, it says, men generally do not get attacked. It sounds like a silly statement, but in general terms, most of the time, men don't typically get attacked. Does it happen? Of course it does. But generally, men don't get attacked. What happens is their ego gets attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get into a fight because they could not control their ego.
Exactly.
When somebody is in your face, there's no strings around you, there's no ropes, there's no cage. You can walk away. But you don't, because I'm not having that person talk to me like that. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I end up in a fight because your ego wouldn't let you walk away because somebody's going to talk bad about you. He walked away from a fight. Well, yeah, I'll walk away from a fight every time because the alternative is just too horrific to even contemplate. So that's kind of what the premise of the book is. It's that type of thing.
Okay. It's about making the better choices to be the bigger man.
It's about looking at yourself, and you do, I do, we all do. We all fight with our self-esteem, our confidence. There could be depression, it could be anxiety. We fight with those things all the time. And the book is called Fighting with Myself. Everybody you know that I know are fighting with something every single day.
Yeah. How have you? Let me rephrase that question. What kind of feedback have you gotten from those that have purchased your book so far?
Oh, awesome feedback. The problem with the book right now is that a year ago I used a self-publishing company, and so I didn't know what I'm doing. I got no clue how to do this. I used a self-publishing company.
Right.
Little beknownst to me that what a self-publishing company does, and I guess they all do it, I don't know. But what this company did was they used their own ISBN number and uploaded the book to distribution network. So it goes on Amazon, it goes on Apple, you see it on the internet all over the place. And they used, I found out recently, their own ISBN number. So this distribution company were paying them, then they were paying me, but I couldn't check how many sales there were. So I've literally the last few weeks got the book back, and it's going to be republished again on the 7th of June under my own ISBN number, so I can take control of the whole thing. Okay. So the company that did this were basically, they're being a bit naughty. They were hiding a little bit. So, but you live and learn, don't you?
Well, I mean, that's definitely true. But so you said you're going to republish. Where are people going to be able to find your book? Are you going to sell independently through Amazon again, through your own company, or are you going through a first part, like
If you go to Amazon now, you probably still find it. It shouldn't be up there now, but it still is. But from the 7th of June, it should be there under my own ISBN number. It'll be on Amazon. It'll be on Apple. It'll be all over. But I'm also, as well as selling it online, I'll be having books at conventions, expos, etc., to sign and sell those.
All right, fantastic. What is the next event do you think that you're going to go to?
Oh, I can't mention any because there's a few in the works that I'm still waiting to hear back from. So for me to say that I'm definitely going to that now would be jumping the gun. So there could be a few.
Okay. I had a question. Okay. I remember the question now. I'm so sorry. I hate when I do this. I do it so much. It's like I get ready to and then I forget. Okay. So what is going on in your life now? Like what you said it's been nearly 30 years. You've done motion capture. You've done the training. You've done teaching. You've done all this stuff. What is Ian McCranor doing now in his life?
Right. I'm kind of semi retired, I guess. I'm back and forth from the US, UK, US. The last 20 or so years has been personal training, group fitness, kept myself in shape. But my goal now is, having spoke to the gaming community, been to
Wait a minute.
a convention.
I'm so
My
sorry.
goal now. Sorry,
Sorry to interrupt. Did we already ask this question?
we kind of touched on it, yeah, but we haven't didn't really go into what my plans are now.
Okay, sorry. All right, my bad.
So yeah, it just sounds like we're kind of going over old ground, doesn't it? We have kind of mentioned it. My goal now is to reach out and see how many conventions are interested in having me there, but also I'm very interested in connecting with game developers who've seen Kasumi Ninja, who've seen Angus McGregor, and think it would be cool to have that guy in their game. So I'm training every day now with a view to being able to get back involved in some kind of motion capture. That would be the ideal for me right now, to do more motion capture stuff and be in a game that actually became something that wasn't like the three have already done. But you said that you thought the thing was a good game. The Fantastic Four was a good game.
No. I thought so. I enjoyed Kasumi Ninja for what it was. So I
Right.
haven't played the Fantastic Four game. I read
Okay.
the comics for Fantastic Four as a kid, and I did actually go back and double check so I had my facts right. He passed away February 6th, 1994, which is so sad. But we lose legends every day, and it impacted a community in a way that I wasn't able to fathom at that age. I just knew that I loved reading the comics.
Right.
I loved the movies, the live action movies as a kid. As an adult, now I see why people dislike them. But it seems like
Right.
Fantastic Four has always been synonymous with bad media outside of the comics. They've never been able to capture it the right way, both in video game, cartoon adaptations, live action movies. It's always been bad. In fact, they finally had somebody who I felt was a good representation of Mr. Fantastic. I can't remember the actor's name now, but he was in WandaVision, and then they killed him, and then recast him with
Okay.
uh, this other dude. He's who do they cast him with? I can see his face, but I can't think of his name now. Um, I'm gonna Google it. I'm gonna Google it real quick, just for the sake of conversation. New Mr. Fantastic. Uh, Pedro Pascal. That's who it was. Pedro
Okay.
Pascal. And the one that they had play as Mr. Reed, I don't know if it'll show up. Come on, be nice. This guy. And they killed him in like 30 seconds. They blew him up. Like,
Oh, okay.
he got a cameo and it was great. And then next thing you know, I was so mad.
Speaking of cameo, what's interesting to me is a few people have contacted me and said Angus McGregor should be a cameo in other games.
Yeah.
And yeah, my answer to them is fantastic. How do we do that? How does that go about?
So we are at an 8-minute timer for this. So, but to answer your question, I just want to give you a heads up in case it cuts off. But to answer your question, so Mortal Kombat is one of the most well-known fighter games around, and
Right.
all the time Mortal Kombat is always adding DLC as of late, downloadable content. There was a petition at one point where everybody wanted Shaggy from Scooby Doo to be part of Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
Because like there's this meme where he's like stronger than Goku. It's funny. It's a Gen Z thing, but
Yeah.
um, so I mean honestly, try contacting the guys that are in contact with the members of Mortal Kombat. That might be able to help get your foot through the door. Which
Yeah, I'm already talking to those. Yeah. So that is something that I may have mentioned it already. I'm not sure. But I will definitely pursue that anyway.
I tell you what, I would love to at some particular point make a fighting game. I'm so new into development. I'm making two things for this device called Playdate, and it's using Lua script. And I'm not a
Yeah.
programmer, so it's kind of difficult for me to make any headway with the limited progress that I have. But progress is progress. And then also, I've been working on this other project for the Atari VCS. I had a programmer, or I had to find a new programmer, unfortunately. Previous one, we separated on great terms. So, Metgon, if you're, or kind of Met, if you're watching, dude, I love you. But, we had to part ways because he had other things that he had to prioritize. And it is what it is. It's my vision, not his. So,
Yeah.
but I would love to get more into video game development. I've considered trying to do an engine in Unity. to maybe do green screen and try to create my own version of like a Mortal Kombat style game. But there's a lot involved in that. You need people, you need costumes, you need all kinds of stuff. There's a lot involved. And
Yeah.
it's easier to do today, I think, than it was maybe in the 90s. I mean, you had the blue screens and the green screens, and you had the motion capture that wasn't really there yet. In fact, one of my favorite motion capture artists is TJ Storm. He played several characters through Power Rangers and VR Troopers. He did the motion capture for Godzilla. He did the motion capture for Colossus in the Deadpool movie. Um, he's done so many things as of late, and motion capture doesn't just go into video games; it goes to movies. There's so much.
Right. Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
love to get into motion capture. If I can't get into legitimate acting, I'd love to go to motion capture and be able to do things off screen in a sense and just have them use me as a tracker model. I think that'd
Yeah.
be great. But anyways, okay, so we have 5 minutes left on the timer. So I want to take this time to ask one last question, and that question being,
Okay.
where can people find you? Like, can they follow you on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? Where can people find you and stay up to date with what you have going on in your everyday life?
I'm kind of old school. Seems strange saying Facebook is old school, but I think probably Facebook would be the main. Just put my name in there, and I love it when people add me and they send me messages and we talk about this. It's awesome. So if anybody wants to talk to me, they want to send me a message, please go ahead and send me a friend request. I'd love to talk to people.
I wanna make a suggestion, by the way, for Facebook. So Facebook limits you to a maximum of 5,000 friends on your friends list.
Okay.
Uh, I didn't know that up until like a year and a half ago. But your best bet would probably be to also create a business page that you can update regularly. Maybe have your
Okay.
agent help you with that. Because the more
Yeah.
people that add you, the less likely you'll have on your friends list. You'll have to go through like every week and get
Right.
pages that are obviously fake or whatever may
Yeah.
happen.
I'll
Okay,
definitely talk to him about that. Yeah.
so we are running out of time. I really don't want to have to conclude this, but I have to. So,
Okay.
um, Ian McCranor, I want to say thank you so much for your insight, for your time, for the opportunity to interview you, and for you guys who have been watching. I've been Kaz Denizan with Crash Productions, and we'll see you in the next one. Did you want to give them any closing remarks?
I just want to say thank you to you for reaching out and getting me on here. The more exposure I get, the more I build my profile. Because again, up until only a few months ago, I was the mystery guy who played the character in Kasumi Ninja. Nobody knew who he was. Nobody knew my real name, and it's been a really exciting, enjoyable journey the last few months. And I just want to build my profile and let it grow. So thank you for reaching out.
Thank you, seriously, for the time and the consideration. Once you get your name out there, I mean, your name's already out there, but once you get your name out much further, I'm sure it's going to be a lot harder to get a hold of you. So I'll take what I can get, like it's all good. Well, anyways, thank you so much for your time, man. And I will hopefully see you again soon. Maybe if these guys want me to bring you back for another interview, just say so in the comments and we'll see if we can.
And keep me posted about the North Carolina gig. That'd be cool.
Absolutely. I definitely will. Now, again, that's in charge of my overseer. The convention is called Fable Comic Con. It's located here in North Carolina. We have it bi-yearly, October and April. We have another showing, October 19th and 20th, that we're planning for right now. So if you happen to be in the area, come say hi. You'll see me on the
Oh,
floor. I'll be filming a documentary this go around for the event. So,
okay.
all right. See you
Awesome.
guys. Thank you so much for watching.
I appreciate it. Thank you.